When are we ever?
When are we ever?
When are we ever gonna use? When are we ever gonna?
When are we ever?
When are we ever gonna?
When are we ever gonna?
When are we ever?
When are we ever?
When are we ever gonna use this?
So this problem is really two problems that eventually merge into one. The first problem would be the expenses that the cost of the garden, and the second is the how much money we made from the garden. The first problem is really just multiplication, and then you just add all of that together, 41 and 1 cent. The second problem is a little bit harder. We have how many tomatoes we grew from the garden, and Roma tomatoes and vine tomatoes. We have the weight of each type of tomato, and we have the prices of each tomato at the store. We have 720 Roma tomatoes from the garden at 1/8 of a pound, and since 8 tomatoes would equal a pound, you should divide that by 8. And that means we have 90 pounds of Roma tomatoes. We have 120 vine tomatoes. Each vine tomato is 1/6 of a pound. So if we get 6 vine tomatoes, that would be a pound. So dividing 120 vine tomatoes by 6 vine tomatoes would be 20 pounds of vine tomatoes. Then we take these are still separate at this point, and then we find the prices of how much of each poundage of tomatoes would cost at the store. And that would be, and then we add that together, and the total would be $228.90. We find the difference between our expenses and what would have been bought at the store, and then we end up with $12.11 more money to get a garden than to buy it from the store.
So, it would not be worth it this year, but next year, after you divide how many tomatoes and how many tomatoes, like vine tomatoes and Roman tomatoes that you have, and how much they would cost at the store, then how much next year the starter cost would be, it would actually be a lot cheaper than the year before.
I think this year it was worth it because you spent either way. If this year you spent more money for all the equipment you needed than the actual harvest money you made. But if they do it next year, they would already have saved $162 with 44 cents. So they would make more money next year than this year.
I think it was worth it because next year you're gonna have all the equipment, the sprinklers, the tomato cages, and the growth lights. So even though this year you kind of spent $12 more than you made, next year it's gonna be better because you're probably gonna make, I think, around $100 or $70 next year.
I think it was worth it because not only do you have the tools for next year, but you have like the tomatoes and everything. And the tools, they actually cost $12.11 more than the tomatoes themselves. But if you grew them next year, then I think it would definitely be worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it. Have you seen how happy growing food makes Mr. Dix? Have you followed his Instagram? He's got pictures of tomatoes, pictures of peppers. He's got like tomatoes in his pockets. He juggles them. He like piles them in like skulls of conquered heroes. No, he doesn't make sense. It was totally worth it because it brings him joy and love, you know, and it makes him happy. And how can you put a price on that?
When are we ever?
When are we ever?
When are we ever gonna use? When are we ever gonna?
When are we ever? When are we ever gonna?
When are we ever gonna?
When are we ever?
When are we ever?
When are we ever gonna use this?